In this lesson, we're going to be talking about reasons for network acquisitions. Well, there are several reasons for doing a network acquisition. There's actually a good example here. I've got Wireshark up, and in doing a capture, I ran across this DNS query, or this handful of DNS queries, that actually looked a little peculiar to me. So the thing is that sometimes you've got applications that are doing things that you don't always know or understand completely what they're doing, and sometimes you need to do a little bit of digging at lower levels so that you can see what's really going on. So right here, I've actually got a DNS query, and the query name, so I've got 3 here, and you can see in the section there with the list of packets over on the info field on the right-hand side, it says standard query A, and then the first one is KUJJRJCOQJ. That looks a little peculiar to me. And there are 2 just below it that also look a little peculiar. It looks like there's some transmissions that are going on my network that may be suspicious in nature and may actually suggest that there is, I don't know, a botnet or some other piece of malware that's trying to communicate with something. And the reason it says Westel.com, I happen to know, is because the manufacturer of my router is a company called Westel, and just the default configuration is that they use Westel.com as the default domain name. So there was probably a DNS query looking for the first part of that, and since there wasn't a fully qualified domain name, the DNS server just threw on the Westel.com suffix, or the client actually here locally knew that there wasn't a fully qualified domain name, and the DHCP server had previously said that the suffix for all of your queries should be Westel.com if you don't actually happen to have a suffix for any query. So this query came in for the first part of it, and my system knew that there wasn't a suffix on it, so we just appended the suffix that we had previously been given by the DHCP server. So looks like there's something funny that's going on there, and it may be something that you can't see at all on your system without doing a lot of debugging or other types of information, but sometimes just going to the network is the best way to see what's really going on. And part of that is because with the network, you can't actually lie, particularly if you're not on the system that you are trying to investigate. Once a packet is on the wire, the packet's on the wire. There's no hiding it or what it's doing or what it says, because the packet is the packet. Now, if you're looking on a particular system and you're doing investigation there are things like rootkits. A rootkit actually might help hide the existence of a particular piece of software, so you may not see it in directory listings, you may not see it in process maps, you may not see a lot of its activity because the rootkit actually hides what's really going on. So if you've got a rootkit and you're trying to see what's going on the system, you're not going to be able to unless you find and remove the rootkit first. So again, if this is a piece of malware that's doing something on the network, if you've got a rootkit on the system, again, the network can't lie. Once a packet is out on the network, there's no way to hide the existence of it because it's just, it's an electrical signal at that point. You can't pretend that it's not there or hide it or protect it from view. So once it's on the wire, you're going to see what's actually happening. So that's a pretty good reason why you might want to do network acquisition as opposed to looking at the system itself, because you may not be able to trust what's going on the system, just because there may very well be a piece of malware there. Now, again, you may actually want to be out on the network itself as opposed to even capturing packets on the system. We can see here an article about a network card rootkit offers extra stealth. That network card rootkit hides rootkits on a network card, and may be able to prevent you from seeing what's going on the network from inside the system. So again, you can't always trust the system that you're investigating for a variety of reasons, and that may be why you need to go to the network to see what's happening. So we've got a lot of pieces of malware that like to communicate with the network. So here's a pretty good one, Zeus. Zeus is a Trojan horse that steals banking information and actually sends it to places in the internet so that it can be retrieved and made use of for illegal purposes. Now, a piece of software like this is absolutely going to be communicating with the network because that's the only way it has of getting the stolen data off to its handlers. So you're going to want to be looking on the network for those particular kinds of communication. So that's something that you want to be looking at the network for, and a pretty good reason for network acquisition. Now, Zeus, of course, isn't the only one. There's a lot of pieces of malware that use the network either for an infection vector or to transmit data to handlers, or in the case of a botnet, you'll have command and control infrastructure that they're communicating with. So there are a lot of pieces of malware, for example, where you may want to be doing network acquisitions and doing them specifically in place of doing an acquisition on the system itself, because you may not be able to trust what's really going on the system and what's being reported to you by system utilities. Now, of course, there are other reasons why you may want to be doing network acquisitions. And sometimes if there's somebody, for example, in a corporate environment doing a lot of browsing of porn sites, you may not want to tip your hand to them that you're doing an investigation. So you may want to be looking on the network either through a proxy server or sniffing connections using something like Wireshark. You may want to be looking on the network in order to acquire some initial evidence that that's really what's going on before letting them know and getting into their system to confirm that that's really what's going on. So, as I said, there's a lot of different reasons why you may go to the network for your acquisition rather than directly to a particular computer to acquire evidence there.